my name is Abby McPherson, and my personal brand page is Abby Teaching Afar. I'm a former traditional educator. I taught physical education for 8 years, and now I have spent the past 4 years being a full-time freelance media freelancer. I enjoy creating content and also repurposing content for brands and businesses to help them leverage what they've already created to be more consistent over time. So that's me in a nutshell in terms of business, that is, and I guess we'll find out more later.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thank you for having me, Abby. My name is Kevin Y. Brown. I am many things. I'm an author. I am a podcaster as well. I used to be on radio in New York City. Then I got on the production side. I run a podcast production company called Podcast Laundry. We've produced over 1,000 podcast episodes and gotten over 40 million downloads for our clients. And I'm also the chief content officer and head of strategy at a company called Afropods based in Nairobi, Kenya. And we are the number one podcast hosting and distribution platform for Africans both on the continent and throughout the diaspora. So we are a Pan-African podcast hosting and distribution company.
That's awesome. So I think you've already piqued my interest with the things that you have done or the things that you're currently doing.
Sure.
So my first question for you is, for anybody that's wondering or pondering about it, why podcasting?
Okay, so yeah, I've been in the game since 2016. And I had done a presentation, did a speech in Sydney, Australia. And, piggybacking off of that, I wanted a way in order to be able to consistently be in contact with my audience, my listeners, and continue to be able to empower them beyond just being on stage and giving a speech. And so one of my friends, his name is Ash Cash. He's a financial influencer, a guru. He was on radio in New York, and he had me onto a show. And once I, was on radio, I was like, man, you know what? I think I want to do this. And so I reached out to the station manager. I had an idea of what I wanted to do because I had actually started vlogging in 2013 before anybody was vlogging or anything like that. I was in Japan doing a series that I called the Create Your Life series. And so I wanted to bring that to the actual, to radio. And then at the same time, my godbrother, who told me I should have started podcasting in 2005. 2005, he was trying to get me to podcast, and I was like, bro, I'm not doing that. I was just interested in, in fashion and all of these things. And so, I brought the Create Your Life series to radio, and at the same time got into podcasting. So I was just studying podcasting heavily on YouTube and just understanding the opportunity that lied there. And so that's how I ended up getting into the game. And just never look back. But I probably spent, they say 10,000 hours to become an expert. Nah, I've probably done like 20, 30,000 hours at this point. You know what I mean? Just really dived in and, to understand it from the talent side, from the production side, from the tech side, So yeah, it's been a good journey.
Okay, so podcasting definitely hit a spark.
Yeah.
2020 with the pandemic and everybody was in the house and had nothing else to do but to be able to have conversations and spark conversations. Sure. My follow-up question for you, with you being in radio and podcasting, most people would just visualize that as being an audio-only outsource situation. What are your thoughts and feelings about the podcast space becoming more visual with adding the element of video? Do you think that it's something that is absolutely necessary for podcasts to also have a video element, or do you still think that audio holds strong by itself? Or what are some of the benefits of incorporating video, or can audio just handle it?
Sure. Well, I think vodcasting, has a
Say
lane.
that again?
Like a vodcasting, like video podcasting. Yeah.
All right.
Or vidcasting, whichever you want to call it. To me, it was inevitable because sometimes, you want to put a face to the name. To the voice, right? Just like meeting people, right? Oh, we've texted, this whole time, or we've been emailing. And, I'd like to know who it is that I'm talking to and kind of get a feel for them, understand their facial expressions, so on and so forth. So I thought that, it was inevitable. Now, the difference is that typically when somebody's doing video or when you're watching video, you have to be locked in and paying attention to the screen. Whereas if you're listening on audio, then you're more so, it's a secondary activity. And so it depends on where it is that you are and what it is that you're doing. but I think that the rise in video is important because video is very, very important for personal branding, company branding, so on and so forth. So to me, it was bound to happen. It was the evolution of the craft. But you have some people who are very diehard for the audio piece, and have others who are more open-minded. But specifically in Africa, what I've seen is that video podcasting is everything, and YouTube is actually, one of the giants, if not, the biggest for the vodcast aspect of it. So yeah, it was bound to happen. I'm happy that it has happened. And sometimes you want to understand the person and see, if they're living the truth or if it's somebody that you should be paying attention to, so on and so forth, right? Like, are you living what it is that you're talking? Like if you're a fitness person, like, are you fit? You know what I mean? Like, if you're the makeup guru or the lifestyle guru, you know what I mean? Like, understanding this person, getting eyes on them, I think is important. And so I like it personally.
So one of my last questions for you, then you can kick any questions you have for me.
Okay.
What would you say to people who, we're on a nice looking podcast right here, we're borrowing the 2454 like portable session. I want to make sure that people know that they don't have to do all of this here. So what advice would you give to people who want to start vidcasting or vodcasting, but are discouraged because they don't have all of the glitz and glam and setup?
Start where you are. It's the biggest thing. Like for me, when I started, I did start out on radio, but your episode one's never going to sound or look like episode 50. The consistency is the key to the game. So the biggest thing is just to go ahead and get started. And even now, like there are fancy cameras and things like that, but I'm looking at the equipment here. It says 4K. iPhone and Android phones period, shooting 4K.
Absolutely.
So get a tripod or set it up somewhere where it can get the right shot that you need. Get you some lighting. It doesn't have to be light, like lamps and things like that, but you can find a place that is well lit and just get started. And then you figure it out and you evolve from there. But again, the big key is to get started and to stay consistent. That's what it's all about, in my opinion. And like even for myself with my podcast, I've recorded I've recorded 206 episodes for my own personal podcast. I've got it down to a science now where I could walk in and just knock it out. But when I was first starting, like my first episode is me using my commentary on top of a motivational video that I ripped from YouTube, right? Of a guy that I used to work for, one of the most profound African American motivational speakers, Les Brown. But I talked about his presentation for my first podcast episode. And so it played the audio, then I would talk about it, so on and so forth. And so, but the evolution of it is, I was recording video in 2023 and I put two iPhones on opposite sides of the room in 4K and shot it and then edited it after, you know what I mean? So just get started, man. Don't worry about where you start at, man. Just continue and, be concerned with where you finish. That's what I would say.
Sure.
Yes. All right, so Abby, let me see here. What would I ask you? I guess I would ask you about your journey to getting to the UAE. From the United States. What prompted that? Like, how did you become inspired to move this far from where you grew up?
Well, one thing I would say that influenced me even being open to live abroad is the fact that my mother is British. So when I was younger, we spent a few years abroad with our extended family.
Okay.
And so the concept of not being in the U.S. was a thing that I have already, been exposed to.
Okay.
I was a minor, of course. So I wasn't completely closed off like, oh, I'll never leave, the U.S. or I'll never leave here because I'm afraid. So traveling had been something that I've been like accustomed to already. Maybe not extensively, but at least it was there. And what sparked it was the 30s hit. The 30s hit and I didn't know what was going on. The script that people, give to you to say, go to school, get a good job, get married, all the other stuff was not necessarily taking place for me. But I needed a big change. And it was being exposed to the opportunity to be abroad, from like inviting myself on one of my good friend's trips to Dubai, meeting my Spanish teacher from high school who was already living over there, who told me to move abroad, not specifically come to Dubai. And it was from me being exposed to that opportunity and looking deeper into it that everything aligned and allowed me to be able to be out here. So now I'm working on my 7th year of being abroad just from the idea of being exposed to the opportunities I had outside of United States.
I love that. So with that, so you moved here after when you invited yourself on one of your France trips. Your Spanish teacher, your high school Spanish teacher, told you that you should do it. How did you conquer the fears of the unknown? Because I feel like a lot of times when people are looking to live in a different place, that's a huge aspect of what might hold them back. You know what I mean? So how did you yourself personally overcome?
So the good news for me personally, about the unknown was that I at least visited. Shout out to all the people who can go and live in a place sight unseen, because that's just not me.
Okay.
But at least my introductory visit, so just like your introductory visit into the country, gives you insight on what is actual.
Sure.
Because outside of that, we just hear people, oh, be careful, don't go over there, or this and that, and they've never been.
Right.
So me
right.
actually being here, seeing what the climate was, seeing what the weather was like, gave me a calm, gave my family a calm to be like, well, she went once and she came back all right, so she
Right.
might be okay. And then
Okay.
the incentives for me, being a teacher, the incentives were very nice.
Okay.
From coming from a situation to where I had to pay for everything, and they said, oh, you know what, we're going to take care of your rent, we're going to take care of your insurance,
Sure.
give you a little stipend, tax free. And I was like, keep talking to me, because
Right.
I'm listening. And all those benefits and perks kind of maybe say, why not? What's the alternative?
So I guess that would make me wonder. So when you think about America and you think about the UAE, there are some there are some diverse cultural distinctions. How have you been able to navigate that? And was there anything that like opened your eyes that you weren't aware of and you were like, oh, wow, okay, this is different?
It was great for me because I'm a pretty calm individual. This has been one of the best climates I've been in.
Okay.
All the people here are very respectful. You respect them, they respect you.
Sure.
Give them their space. So cultural differences. I think a lot of people think when you go to certain places that they're going to enforce their lifestyle, their beliefs on you. And that has not been the case for me, at least. So I feel like the nature of the country, the respect that they have for one another, the way that they do the things that they do, I'm cool with it. And they allow me to be me. Nothing's been forced on me. I haven't been told I can or can't do stuff, but the way that I carry myself in general, if it's something that's not allowed, 9 times out of 10, I don't do it anyway, so it's fine.
Right.
So people will believe it's a restrictive place, but it literally depends on how you live your life and the restrictions that you put upon yourself on how you view that.
I like that you said that. So for me, this is my first time visiting UAE, right? And I think one of the biggest things for me is wherever you go, no matter where you go in the world, I try not to have preconceived notions, and I try to go there and take in my experience for what it is, right? So whatever it is that I experienced, and I'm making a judgment and, just living in the moment. And so for me, I really like that things are different because it gives me the opportunity to learn, right? And to learn a different way of living, a different way of life. And so, I don't know, I find it to be, I'm appreciative of it, you know what I mean? And, for me, the first day, I got here at 1 a.m. and then I was at the conference the next day. And so for me, I spent the majority of my first day kind of like an observation, trying to understand the customs and, asking questions about, particular items that are being worn and things like that, so that I could then make sure that I'm aware enough in order to operate from a place of respect, right? And I think that is just a way to travel and to engage with the world when you're going into someone else's backyard. So I'm with you on that.
I agree.
I'm with you on that.
Awesome. Good.
Would you ever live outside of the UAE? And if so, where would you go?
Great question. I have been asked this before, and at present, I do not essentially wish to go to another place. This has been outside of England. This has been the only other country that I've lived in.
Okay.
And from what people have told me, I'll be fine with that this is probably one of the safest places, at least for me, on earth, right? So there's other places that are interesting. I'll probably have to visit there. But at present, I am totally fine being right here in the UAE. I'll visit other countries, but this is one of the 3 places that I call home and happy to be here.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I wish you continued success on your journey.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you and your time and coming to this country and sharing at this conference. And thank you to 2454 for allowing us to utilize this space. Thank you to the technician over there doing his thing. And we'll see you when we see you.
Sounds great.